Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel and the third part of the trilogy. How will Pochettino set up at Chelsea if he was to become the new manager? Now, Potter is apparently the priority, and we've done a video on Potter. If you want to know how Potter would set up at Chelsea, then check that out after this one. Do me a favour. Also, check out my raw reaction to Thomas Tuchel getting the sack this morning, which is when I've recorded this. But let's dive into this situation. As I said, Pochettino waiting in the wings. How would he set up with this team? This is interesting because when I spoke about Potter and the casualties that would come with him, with Pochettino, there are casualties aplenty as well. Now, the thing that springs to mind straight away is that Pochettino plays with a back four. And that's pretty much nailed on if he was to become the next Chelsea manager. By the way, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe. And guys, please do consider hitting the like button as well on this one. Last season, PSG only played three at the back once. 98% of all minutes under Pochettino last season had them playing in a back four. Now, at Spurs, of course, you have different personnel, and at PSG, you've got to deal with Mbappe, Messi, Neymar, as you can see. This is a game from Marseille, which I think tells a hell of a lot. At Tottenham, he played a 4-3-1-2 near the end of it. It was kind of the beginning of that split striker of Son and Kane. He also played a 4-2-2-2, which Chelsea have done. I think they did it in the Spurs game, actually, with Ruben Loftus-Cheek kind of stepping in a little bit. So it's something that they can do. And he did it with Tottenham, with Eriksen, Lamela playing those narrow attacking midfielders, allowing Kane and Son, again, to be a pairing up top. That might be a little bit different here because they don't have that many strikers at this moment in time. But 4-3-3 is what he used a lot at PSG. And I think it's a 4-2-3-1 that Pochettino would utilise at Chelsea. Let's have a look at this, just because I think what's important to say here is that 54% of the time at PSG used a 4-3-3 in matches last season. But as I say, it was accommodating that front three. And what was difficult here, and I think part of the reason why it really failed for them, I mean, they walked the league, but they did so using that quality. There was a lack of dynamism. Pochettino wasn't able to press from the front like he would like to. And so with that, you then have to have sort of workhorses in the middle of midfield. And you can see that here. And in terms of the average ratings, it was similar to this throughout the season. They won this game 2-1. And, Neymar with a bit of brilliance. Verratti has a good game. But otherwise, it's a team that's struggling a little bit to get the best out of themselves to dominate a game. And I think what's great about it, actually, is if we have a look at the average positions from this game, is that the fullbacks weren't able to be those fullbacks that you saw at Tottenham when it was Danny Rose and Kyle Walker sort of getting on that little bit more because of that idea that they had to kind of just safeguard Messi, Mbappe and Neymar. Obviously, they've changed it now and they've started the season on fire, actually, with a three at the back. But these are the average positions. And I think for a team of the quality of PSG and a team with, Pochettino that would want to have that vibrancy, that ability to sort of be gung-ho at times, you would expect the fullbacks to be much, much higher, especially the likes of Hakimi. You would expect Hakimi to be bombing on, both these players bombing on. But I think with the quality that was there in this front three, it was about getting them the ball and then facilitating them. So would this be a possible worry for Chelsea in terms of using their fullbacks? Maybe, but only if they played a 4-3-3. I think they would actually try something a little bit different. So let's have a look at the potential lineup that they could provide for the team. As I say, and I said to you right at the start of it, back four. It will be a back four if Pochettino gets the job at Chelsea. So here is the predicted lineup for Poch. 4-2-3-1. I think he's going to, first of all, let's start off with the back four. I think he will have that back four. And this is where you have one of your casualties You know what I mean? With Thiago Silva, look, the guy's 37, so fine. And there'll be games where you can still get him in there. I think in terms of fullbacks, it's going to obviously be Reece James and Cucurella. Chilwell will step in as well, both proven to be dependable, both going forwards and, coming backwards as well. So maybe he can provide that bit of freedom for them to allow them to get on. And if the rest of the team's willing to press, which we'll talk about in a second, then I think that will allow them to get a lot higher up the pitch. I think in terms of those centre-back positions, it's Koulibaly and Fofana for me for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think, does Pochettino want to move towards, and maybe he wasn't able to do it with Spurs, apart from, again, that last season, that White Hart Lane. Does he want to move towards what the Liverpools have done, what the Man Cities have done, where you have a high pressing side and you have a leftover defence, where you have Koulibaly and Fofana as those two players who are left over and have to deal with what comes their way? I think that could be a route that he goes down. I think with Fofana, you've got some parallels there in terms of Toby Alderweireld, his passing range, something that Poch depended on quite a lot during his time, and it's a skill set that Fofana has. And of course, the investment is so huge with those two that to sort of stick with those two would make sense, wouldn't it? It would make sense. Yeah, will you get the best out of Reece James and Cucurella? I guess you would see. Again, it comes down to sort of the handbrake being off. Double pivot. Now, this is one of the most contentious areas of this team. And again, get involved in the comments, guys. If you think I'm getting this wrong, let me know in the comments down below. Of course, there's some contentious personnel, but that's because we're looking at it from the way the page is written at this moment in time. That could change. So this is a contentious area of this predicted lineup. Kante, in my opinion, is an obvious pick because of his work rate, his ability to win the ball back effectively, and I think it would draw Pochettino towards him as a choice. And when he's fit, he's just he's superb, right? I know for Kovacic not to be in there is interesting. We'll talk about that in just a second. The other thing is that Spurs don't really, or when Pochettino was at Spurs, they didn't really have that kind of controller. That guy just constantly gets on the ball. And so with that in mind, I think they would go with him. And again, this is one where it's not as much about picking up the ball, and I know it's important, and Kante's capable of doing that. It's about that high pressing system, players that are going to work hard for the team. That's what Pochettino would want to get back to in terms of his management style. The secondary pivot position is something I think could be really interesting for Poch's setup. You've got Chukwuemeka and Gallagher. Obviously, Kovacic might be the smart choice in the short term as well. And to lose Kovacic in this side, maybe it's one where you put him instead of Kante. But again, I'm just talking about what Pochettino may go down, what road he might go down. But I think one of the reasons why you would bring in Pochettino is his desire to develop young players, his ability to develop young players. And when he sees the right attitude in certain players, he's willing to kind of stick with them. So having two sort of young, talented, malleable players in Gallagher and Chukwuemeka, you've got great energy, you've got quality as well, great potential, and they could become first team regulars. I kind of wanted to put that in there just to almost get that point across as much as anything. I would worry about the likes of Jorginho. I would worry for the likes of Azpilicueta. I guess if there's times where it would work, and maybe Reece James, again, do you start to move him into a different position? Probably not, because he's such a weapon out there. But for Azpilicueta, there's a struggle there. Thiago Silva, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, does he offer the work rate? Maybe not. I think that's a difficult area for some of those players to get back into the side. Into the attack, I think he will go 4-2-3-1. And again, with that one player who can get on that little bit more, be it Gallagher, Chukwuemeka, Kovacic. I think with this three, it's about pressing, quality, and dynamism. And I don't see Pulisic good enough. Dare I say it? Maybe being harsh there. And again, you can only get 11 players on the pitch. Second off, Ziyech, has he got the hunger to press the way that Pochettino wants him to? I think this is one. It's actually a team that would have benefited Callum Hudson-Odoi, but he's been loaned out to Bayer Leverkusen now for the season. So that's what I've got right now. And actually, I think at the start of the season, we were saying, get yourself a striker. Forget the sort of style of play. This is a lineup that would work. Now, up top, Poch struggled massively with the sort of the egos and the man management style of those more experienced players who didn't sort of suit what he wanted. And you do wonder if that would be the case with Aubameyang, who's an absolute stinker, who's so excited to play for Tuchel and then plays one game, loses that game, and Tuchel's on his way out. under Poch, Aubameyang did press quite a lot in the final third for Barcelona last year. And him being at Chelsea, the opportunity that's there, maybe he's up for it. I think he sort of got lost in the sauce a little bit with Arsenal. But someone who's 33 knows it's probably his last chance at a big club that can win things. I think it's one that maybe he would be able to offer up that output. But I do think there's a place here for Brozier. I really, really do. In terms of that front three, I think the problem with Havertz is that he drifts over to the left a lot of the time. But could you see something where Havertz plays that sort of Dele Alli role a little bit? And so for that to occur, you do need that Kane-type striker up top. Brozier offers great work rate, ability to hold up the ball, a little bit more physicality as opposed to an Aubameyang who's that advanced forward. Mason Mount can play absolutely anywhere, but on that right wing, I think he could pick up some really nice spaces. Sterling on that left wing, we know he can do a great job there. And as I say, Havertz in maybe a bit of a Dele Alli role. Is that something that could work with him when he has that support from Mount coming into those spaces that he's in? He can run beyond, Mount can run beyond, Sterling can run beyond a lot of dynamism there. And again, with that second part of that double pivot, you've got another player who can maybe get involved as well. So it's not as exciting as the Graham Potter appointment, but is it a safer appointment? Quite possibly. Is it someone who has that experience at big clubs? Yes. Would there be some concerns about it being free-flowing enough, especially in the fullback areas where you've got some really special players in the likes of Chilwell and what he can offer, Reece James and Cucurella, of course, as well? That would be a concern for me. Are you going down the same road of a manager who couldn't do it at PSG and then he makes his way to Chelsea? And actually, is this a team and a manager that can really take Chelsea to the next level? I'm not saying Potter is, but I wonder if Pochettino is just a bit too obvious, if you know what I mean. Which is, and it sounds dumb, doesn't it? It does sound dumb. I think you can go down a road here, and if there is this vision, I do keep coming back to this idea that Todd Bowley's had an absolute this idea that this was decided before this game. Why is Billy Gilmour being allowed to go to Brighton, or Levi Cole being allowed to go to Brighton if you're going to bring in this new manager who's going to get the best out of the youngsters? It's utter nonsense. So again, that element of it is reactive. For them to be moving as swiftly as they are, you could see that as a positive. But I would suggest, again, if you are making a reactive decision in sacking someone, maybe take a breath and look at how these two managers will set up. I think both could be successful. I also think that both could, and this is just a more an element of the context of the league at this moment in time, despite spending all that money, you're going to have some players that are going to make way, some players that are going to come into the fold. And will the overall baseline of the team improve to a degree that you are challenging for a title? I don't know. I really, really don't know. And I just think there's been a lot of decisions made really, really quickly. And it doesn't feel right, does it? Doesn't feel right. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments down below. Again, you've got so many players. I'm just looking at Twitter now. Sterling's trending. There's so many players that have come into that club thinking they're going to work with Thomas Tuchel and will have been sold a certain style of play. And now we'll have to deal with a very, very different style of play. Pochettino, especially with the links with Tottenham as well, doesn't feel right for me. I feel like Pochettino is the right way to go. Potter is the right way to go. But I think it's a brave one for Potter to take and would be one that could hurt for him down the line, but it would allow him to have that experience at the highest level. What do you guys think? Have you watched both videos? Have you enjoyed both? If you haven't watched the Potter one, go check that out right this second, because Potter plays a very different way to Pochettino. Which one would be the best? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button on your way out. I'll see you next time.